right, and I will pass it over to our board president.
Thank you, moderator. Good morning, everyone, and appreciated your patience. Today is Friday, March 26, 2021, and we present, March 26, 2021, we present for our day 2 acupuncture board meeting. And this meeting is being held by WebEx, and this is the official business meeting of the acupuncture board. Pursuant to the provisions of Governor Newsom's Executive Order N-25-20, dated March 12, 2020, neither a public location nor teleconference location are provided for this meeting. For all those who wish to participate in the WebEx event meeting, please log on to the board website posted agenda on the day of this meeting. The board welcomes the public comments on any items on the agenda. It is the board intent to ask for public comments prior to the board taking actions on any agenda items. Individual listening to the meeting will have an opportunity to provide a public comment and will be assisted by the DCA moderator, who will be facilitating this teleconference process. So the meeting will be started now at 9:36. Yeah, please take a roll call. Is it David?
Yes, President Matecki. Good morning, everyone. As I call your name, please unmute and let us know that you're here. Dr. Matecki.
Present.
Kitman Chan.
Present.
Yongping Chen.
Present.
John Harabedian.
Here.
Francisco Kim.
I'm here.
Shudong Lee.
Present.
Ruben Osorio.
Morning.
Great. I show that all board members are present. We have a 7-0 quorum. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, David. Now let's move on to agenda item number 2. I will defer most of my remarks to yesterday. Please keep in mind the board continue to uphold its highest priority of public protection. The board continue working with our stakeholders during this pandemic time. Board has been working diligently with telehealth regarding the licensees' safe practice through the telehealth services. And also the board continue offer the applicants computer-based testing. There are 20 sites in California and 20 sites outside of the state. Also board working with the schools regarding distance learning and trainings, CE providers, how to offer the distance learning courses. So we are here, work together, appreciate your continued support and collaborations with the board. The board is currently conducting an occupational analysis of an acupuncture profession in California. We encourage your participation. So special thanks to DCA support with IT support, also DCA moderator for your hard work yesterday to support the board and the public. So I will stop here for the remarks and let's move on to the agenda item number 3. We open for, actually, I apologize, is today, this is agenda number 17, apologize. So agenda number 17, the board will hear public comments for items not on the agenda. So I would like to remind speakers to not comment if the item is agendized already. And please limit your comments to 3 minutes for most of the public. But if someone need extra time, please give 5 minutes. Now we'll turn to the moderator. Would you please open up to the public, please?
Thank you. This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment for items not on the agenda, please click that icon with a question mark within a square located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen. Currently sharing instructions on the screen for your reference. In the Ask field, typically in the lower right-hand corner of your WebEx screen, please type, "I would like to make a public comment," and send to all panelists. I'll go ahead and pause a moment to allow the public time to access the Q&A panel and submit their requests.
A point of order, just so our public and members are clear. This is for items not on the agenda. So if this item was discussed yesterday or will be discussed today, please reserve your comments for that specific time. And it is 1 comment per commenter. Thank you.
This is the moderator. Seeing no requests for public comment, would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thank you,
All right.
moderator. So I just wanted to recap. Yesterday, we have moved a couple of agenda items to today's. Let's apologize for the little bit out of the order. And then we would like to reopen up with, we tabled the item 11 report on the commencement of the occupational analysis. So we will reopen up today. And Mr. Hurt, start, please.
Good morning, everybody. Yeah, and thank you for allowing us to bring this item up again today. So the Acupuncture Board is really excited to announce that it's conducting an occupation analysis of the acupuncture profession in California. And what that is, it's a survey that's developed by several groups of licensed acupuncturists. And we invite all licensees, all California licensees, to complete the occupation analysis survey to identify the knowledge, skills, and abilities required to perform the current practice of acupuncture, current practice of licensed acupuncturists. Results of the occupation analysis will be used to update and improve the California acupuncture licensing examination. And participation by the licensed community will help define what's required to practice acupuncture safely and effectively at the time of licensure. So with that, the board really encourages participation by as many California acupuncturists as possible to ensure that we capture the profession's practices and that they're recorded in the survey so that the results can accurately reflect the practice of acupuncture in California. A little bit more information. The Occupational Analysis Survey is developed with the board's partner, the Office of Professional Exam Services. They plan and develop the survey, the process, and this is done by conducting workshops with licensee SMEs, a number of them, to come up with the survey and to present it to everybody to actually weigh in individually. The last survey was completed, the last occupation analysis was completed in 2016. And just for more information, the occupation analysis is used to guide the test creation so that it accurately reflects the current practice of acupuncture in California. And the past occupation analysis was also used to create a comparison study between the California Acupuncture Licensing Exam and the National Commission for Certification of Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine exams. and using the RO occupation analysis and the NCCOM job survey analysis. If anybody's interested, that report that was created is available to be viewed right now, and it's very timely considering the discussion yesterday of the national exam and the California exam. So there's some really good material to review on that, and it's still very current. So it's called the Review of the National Certification Commission for Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine Exam. And if you go on our website and just search, there's a search box up at the top. If you type that in there, it'll pull up the survey and you can view it. And if anybody has trouble finding that, please call the board and reach out if you want to be able to have some more guidance in how to locate that. So the other thing to really to put out there is please complete this survey and submit your responses by May 5th, 2021. I'd also like to let everybody know that the survey is available 24 hours, 7 days a week online. And to access it, if you don't have a link that was sent to you by mail or by an email confirmation, if you go on our website, on the home page, on the What's New section, you'll see some links that will take you directly to the occupation analysis. The one that particularly takes you there is one that says free CEUs for completing occupation analysis survey. And that's also the announcement that acupuncturists that complete this will get 4 hours of continuing education. And the reason that it was set for that much time is to allow acupuncturists to allow, really adequate time to carefully put their particular practice details and take the time that they need to deal with that. And we really appreciate that work on the part of the licensees. And that concludes my report on the occupation analysis. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Hurd. So now let's move on to the agenda item number 12 from yesterday. Is a consumer and a professional association reports. And I just want to give everyone heads up, after the 12th, we will back to agenda items number 18.
Madam President?
Yes,
Madam
good morning.
President, this is Fred Chan, your legal counsel. I think there should be public comments for item 11 before moving on to item number 12.
Okay, great. Thank you, legal, for your reminder. Okay, so moderator, would you please open up to the public comment? Of course, I wanted to open up for the board members first. If the board members, would you like to have any comments? I will open up to the board member first. Please unmute your phone if you would like to say. And I see Executive Officer, Mr. Boudia, your hands is raised, please.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to underscore what Jay said in terms of the criticality of having as great participation in this study as possible. It would allow us to have a very accurate representation of the practice in California so that, as discussed yesterday, we can have an accurate comparison with any other test considered. And you get 4 free hours of continuing education by helping the board and your profession in this state. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boudia. Member Kim, I see your hands raised, please.
Yes, good morning. For this occupational analysis, I think it's all the letters been sent out to all the licensees, and but is there other ways they can be notified or can get to this survey? Actually, myself, I did finish it on my phone by checking my email, but I also remember I got the letter from the board by mail. So is there any other ways they can be notified?
Francisco, thanks for bringing that up. This is Jay again. And you really outlined our outreach. We mailed for all current valid license, we mailed a direct letter by mail to California licensees. We also used our licensee email list and mailed out the announcement and invitation that way. And then we also mailed it out to our listserv of anybody interested, mailed it out there. And then the final place that we placed it was prominently on the homepage of our website, so it's easy accessible. If somehow you can't locate the email or the letter's doesn't have the live link, you can quickly get there. And yeah, so those are our channels that we can do it. And you should be able to do it from your phone as well.
Then how many percentage of licensees have provided their email address? Do you have any figure?
We haven't. The board hasn't required that people provide their email, but on our forms for any licensing or whatever, we've included a field for that. So it's starting to populate. You know, I mean, I don't have a percentage offhand. I have seen, you know, the list that we have, and it's definitely not complete. So, you know, the more licensees provide their emails whenever they're communicating with the board, or if they just reach out and say, hey, please capture my email, we can capture it in our licensing system and then we'll have it for use. But, you know, something, you know, if I just had to kind of stick my finger in the air estimate, it's about 50% of the people have the email. Now, the mailing was really complete to everybody, but this brings up another point, and I was trying to work this into my comment some way, but since you've asked, whenever we do a mailing, we've done a number lately because of the wall licenses and whatever, we're getting really a lot of return mail, and so it's really important for licensees to keep their addresses updated with the board so that we can reach out to them like this if needed to. But it's also a requirement of practice is that their address of record is current with the board and they can receive mail there. So if you're not getting mail from the board, or if you've changed licensees, please make an effort to update your address. And thank you for those questions, Francisco. They're great.
Thank you, Mr. Hurd. So our executive officer, Mr. Bodie, I see your hands is up.
Thank you, President Matecki. Just to provide a little bit more background, our new online renewal system and application system does allow for the collection of email addresses, as you need to use your address to create an account. So we are starting to be able to log this in a much easier fashion in terms of email addresses. Our older system, it was much more challenging to capture email addresses. But like Jay said, we had provided on previous iterations of our applications a field for emails. It's just that a bit more challenging. So we're hopeful that we will be able to get more email addresses as more users start using the Connect system. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bodier. Member Dr. Chen, your hands is up, please.
Yes, President Matecki. I just heard from Jay and Mr. Bodier said, so I can understand the board staff really well prepared this program, and for the delivery system, I think that's the best you can do now. You mail everybody the mail. I receive mail and email, and I did it the right way, but not everybody will do it right away. So the thing probably after a while they forgot to send mail to somewhere, but so I'm not sure if Acupuncture board has Facebook, some public social media as a way to deliver, because nowadays everything's on social media. So that's one of my questions. Is it feasible? So social media to encourage people, our stakeholder to do it. This is the one question. And the second is, since this profession is very diversity, the professionals speak a different the original language, English, some English as a second language. So maybe have some language barrier. If the association can organize to help them understand the question, will be very helpful. So I really encourage all the associations, this important OA association can do something to help their members. So there's 2 points. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chen. Yeah, that's a great recommendations. Any other board members would like to make any comments? Okay, Mr. Boudia, please.
Thank you, President Mateki. Just to answer Board Member Chen's question, the board does have the capability of having social media. We aren't presently on it. We're just, it's a matter of staffing at the moment, but we are planning to engage in communication on those channels as well. So we hope to have that up in the next year or so.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. I don't see any hands up, so I'm going to open up to the public. So moderator, would you please help to facilitate public comment, please?
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this agenda item, please click that icon with a question mark within a square located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen. All right, it looks like we do have a couple individuals who have requested public comment, so I will go in the order that they are received. Our first individual is identified as Mary Schultz. Mary, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. I am unmuting your microphone now.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak, President Mateki. My name is Mary Schultz. I'm a licensed acupuncturist. I'm a CEU provider for the board, American Acupuncture and Integrative Medicine Institute, provider number 1436. And I have shared the link on our Facebook page for the occupational analysis. I have also shared it on several pages on Facebook as well, indicating that hopefully all licensed California acupuncturists have seen that you can receive 4 CEUs for completing the California Acupuncture Board's occupational analysis survey, and I shared the link. The question that I have, and perhaps Jay can answer it, is are there comments available about the survey, you know, with regard to the different sections and the questions that were asked? And is there going to be anything with regard to that? Because I wanted to make some comments about the expansion of practice, and there didn't seem to be any comment section within the survey. So that is the end of my comments. Thank you.
All right, this is the moderator, and we will move on to our next individual who has requested public comment. Neil Miller. Neil, you'll be given 5 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. I am unmuting your microphone now.
Good morning, Neil Miller from CalAtma. I just wanted the board to know we sent this to our 550 members, and we distribute it to both Korean Association, Japanese Association, and maybe 5 or 6 other ESL language groups to encourage them all to get their members to fill this out, and some of our CalAtma team it was working with them to write a translation cover page to help them. So I just wanted you to know that's what we did, and to echo that Dr. Young Ping's comments that some ESL in the Asian community needed a little bit of assistance. So I just wanted the board to be aware of that, and that CalAtma was trying to bridge that gap. Thank you.
All right, this is the moderator, and it looks like there are no further requests for public comment. Would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes,
I
please.
apologize. We actually got one more in just now. Let me find them. All right, individual identified as Philip Yang, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak in a 30-second warning. I am unmuting your microphone now.
Yeah, thank you. This is Philip Yang from California University, Silicon Valley. Yeah, just now, sorry, I missed the agendas, not in the items not in the agenda today because of the technical problem. I just figured out this problem. So is it possible, or is there any chance that I can make another proposal for the agendas? Yeah, I just have the question.
Okay, I see there's hands raised from our staff. Let's go to Mr. Hurt. Your hands is up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say in general, for anybody who has comments about the occupation analysis, it's not to be provided when you're doing it, but we definitely can receive comments and I can forward them to the Office of Professional Exam Services. So for those comments, I recommend sending them to the acupuncture inbox, which is acupuncture@dca.ca.gov. And that's all I had to say, Amy.
Thank you, thank you. And Mr. Bodia, your hands is up and you wanted to add, please.
Yes, just to inform the board and yourself, Madam President, I'm getting some communications that some people are having trouble logging in, and as we had a public commenter wishing to provide comment on a previous agenda item, I recommend perhaps pushing the public comment for items not on the agenda to later on in the day, such that any of those people that wanted to make that comment can do so at the end of the day, if legal counsel.
And Madam President, this is Fred Chan, UDC Legal Counsel. Yeah, that's totally reasonable, and yeah, the board can go ahead and offer another opportunity for the public to make comments on items not on the agenda, or for them to offer proposed items for future for the future agenda, for the future meetings.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bodia. So legal, how should I see this item? We table it?
I think that's when I think right now we're on what, item number 12,
This is
right?
7, yeah, this is a 7, supposed to be 17.
Oh, 11.
Yeah, and
17.
then we will go back to 12. Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I think that maybe for the record, you could say, you could table, well, not table, you could maybe push this agenda back to a later time, so that to afford the public, well, before more members of the public to comment due to technical issues that's going on right now.
Thank you. So I want to repeat what you said. Just that we will push this back, and due to the technical issues for later, and appreciate all the legal advice, and appreciate Mr. Bodia, you still would like to add some?
No, I'm good. Apologies, madam.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so we will move on to the agenda item number 12, and I read. Yes.
We still do have public
Sorry.
comment.
Yes, let's.
I apologize. We still have one more individual who would like to make public comment on item 11. Let me
Please.
find him in the attendee list real quick. Individual identified as Ron.
Yes,
Ron, you'll be
please.
given 3 minutes to speak in a 30-second warning. I am unmuting your microphone now.
This is Ron Zeidman, president of Five Branches University. The California exam is given in English, Chinese, and Korean. The occupation analysis is only in English. There is a very obvious bias against the Asians in this occupation analysis form. And it's not a political issue that I'm bringing up, as much as getting accuracy from our profession on the occupation analysis. The way we have the form now, we are excluding or certainly not encouraging the Asian practitioners to respond. So I would strongly recommend that this form be in 3 languages so that the Acupuncture Board can get a more accurate reflection of the practice of our profession in California. Thank you.
All right, this is the moderator, and it looks like there are no further requests for public comment. Would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please.
All
Thank
right,
you,
our Q&A
moderator.
panel is now closed.
Thank you. Appreciated the public participation. Now we will move on to the agenda. Item number 12, that's left from yesterday. And after the agenda item 12, so we will move back to follow today's, which is going to the number 18. So let's start with the number 12, Consumer and Professional Association reports. And the moderator, would you please facilitate for the public to participate?
All right, this is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I have opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click that Q&A icon at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen. And just as a general reminder, we will not be responding to raised hands from the public. If you wish to make a comment, please type into that comment box. It looks like we do have one individual who's requested public comment. Individual identified as Nell, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. I'm unmuting your microphone now.
Hi, this is Dr. Nils Messina, president of CSOMA. First, want to thank the board for sticking to the agenda. I know it was really tough for a lot of us who were trying to plan into our day yesterday and today and when we needed to be on, but I really appreciate, even with things going over, that you carried the items in order. So thank you for that. Just a few updates from CSOMA. Definitely won't need to go into AB 918 too much, which was introduced by CSOMA and Assemblywoman Park-Silva. We spent a plethora of time on that yesterday. Just want to point out with this current legislative climate, you know, how exciting that was for our profession to have. Very proud of the work CSOMA did with that. It's been really important to our membership and stakeholders. Speaking of our membership, we've had a 40% growth since the start of the COVID shutdowns, so a year ago. We've also seen a 9-fold increase in corporate sponsorship of our association since that time. We've continued increasing member benefits. A big part of this was offering free and affordable continuing education to practitioners monthly on a virtual basis. And we also have our next journal coming out, the Journal of Acupuncture and Integrative Medicine, which we've been releasing pretty much annually. This time we are doing integrative fertility, and we are currently accepting submissions. So that's about all for CSOMA. Thank you so much for the time.
All right, this is the moderator. It looks like that was our only individual who has requested public. Oh, I apologize. We do have another individual who's requested public comment, Neil Miller. Neil, you'll be given 5 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. I am unmuting your microphone now.
Thank you, Neil from CalAtma. Our membership is now at 550 members. We took a position on House Resolution 23 to stop anti-Asian Pacific Islander crimes. We had 3 proposed bills, and we actually had vehicles for those bills to change Oriental Asian offensive language to acceptable manual therapy and the therapeutic blood withdrawal bleeding issue and lasers. But the legislature had to drop from 25 to 12 bills because of COVID. But we have sponsors for next year. Many acupuncturists are being sued for ADA non-compliance. So we wrote an article, and we will be having a free webinar with the nation's leading expert on this, and it is open to not only CalAtma but all practitioners, and we will make this available in Chinese, Japanese, and Korean as well. We have 24 CEs per year. It's free, and we do 2 per month, 2 hours per month, and 4 to 6 or 8 hour CE every month for our members. We had 3 CE events this month. One with the Japanese Association. It is our first dual group together. And what's important is we were addressing proper billing and documentation and trying to reach out to ESL associations, trying to unite them to understand this important issue, and also on lab test and diagnostic imaging we did in English, and we are scheduled for it next month in Korean. Michael Fox has joined us as a new board member. He was the steering committee president that started CalAtma, and he is our new communications director. We were working with NCCLM and prepared a 12-page question and answer about national exam. We translated it into Korean and Chinese, and we are working on a Japanese translation. And we've had meetings with translators, with our ESL partners, and among all of our English-speaking CalAtma people to determine the consensus. As you know, we are opposed. But we'd like to thank the opportunity to have spoken yesterday, and I'll address more about that in public comment. And lastly, and most importantly, our legislative action team met with Erica Pan, the Deputy Director of the California Department of Public Health, to address whether or not we are essential workers. We met with our legislative consultant, and we met with the governors to discuss the governor's orders about essential orders. Many acupuncturists were not included. We were in different counties. We were told to close, and we had problems for many of us to get our vaccines. So our leadership articulated that under California law, we are regulated as primary providers, state Medi-Cal, and physicians for workers' comp, and we're in the California covered health insurance market. I'm very, very, very happy and proud that Dr. Pan from the California Department of Health agreed with CalAtma that we are essential workers and our businesses are essential businesses. And she's recommending the Department of Health
30 seconds.
Will immediately change and put on their website that states this. And lastly, we applied to be vaccinators to the state, and we are waiting and working with the state to try to get acupuncturists to be vaccinators. Wow, I got it in. Thank you.
All right, looks like that was our last individual who has requested public comment. Would you like me to close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please, moderator. Thank
The
you.
Q&A panel is now closed.
Thank you. So this is the item left from yesterday. So now we will move to today's agenda. And I really apologize about the out of the order from yesterday. Hope we will start to move forward. Let's move to item 18, agenda item 18, presentation of chaotoma of bloodletting bleeding. So,
The-
moderator, would you please facilitate on this item? I don't believe we have, the time limited to 5. So let's see how Mr. Miller will take. So let's just open up for him. I do not want to put a time limit at this point, and I hope Mr. Miller be mindful, and we still have a lot of agenda to go through today. But thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Madam President and the board. This is an issue that I personally have been working on almost 20 years. So I'm glad to finally present here. If you will turn to the next slide. Thank you. So in regulations, Title 16, Article 3.5, as you can see, it talks about acupuncture and a training program, and you can clearly see two problems here. One is that the word bleeding is here. Bleeding is not a problem, but it's here. I just want to point out that a bleeding, which is an outdated term, but bleeding is here in the training program. And I also want to point out that the word Oriental is here in our regulations. Now the law in statute eliminated the word Oriental from all statutes in California, but this is in regulation. So we have a problem. We need to match the regulations with the statute, and we have to eliminate the words like Oriental that are offensive and have actually been outlawed. And you can see that this in the training was revised in January. I also wanted to point out that the hygienic standards include the clean needle technique. So we are very familiar with the technique of sterilization and the clean needle in relationship to the training to do this procedure. The problem existed because a former executive officer pointed out that this term bleeding did not appear in statute, and said because it's not in statute, it's not in our scope of practice. Well, the common sense. It's in the training. It should be in the statute. Can you go to the next slide, please? 4926. So the legislative intent is very clear. Everybody knows it. You can see it in front of you, and I personally don't want to reread the whole thing today. But I want to point out that the point where it says in the center, the second paragraph, remove existing legal constraints which are unnecessary hindrance to the profession of our health care services, and that we are regulated and controlled as the primary health care. So the legislative intent is to do what I'm talking about here. It's just trying to get rid of unnecessary hindrance for us to do our jobs, and that we are subject to necessary regulations. So we're on the same page here. We just need to bring this into today. We need to fix something. And I think when I'm done, you'll all agree. So if you turn to the next slide, please, 4927. the definitions from the statute. There's two problems here. One is that it doesn't include the word bleeding. So it talks about acupuncture, and we read the definition of acupuncture, and it doesn't discuss it here. Talk about electroacupuncture is acupuncture, but cupping is not acupuncture. But moxibustion is not acupuncture. There's no way anywhere in the whole world cupping and moxa are acupuncture. So this is not accurate definition. So we want to work with the board and to point out to the legislature that this is inaccurate. Cupping and moxibustion are not in the definition of acupuncture, but are clearly in our scope of practice. And bleeding is part of the acupuncture paradigm. But bleeding belongs in 4927, and cupping and moxibustion don't. Also, there is a phrase in here that I've been working on as long as I've been an acupuncturist. On or near the surface of the body, that doesn't mean anything. It's misleading. Who's putting points on or near the surface of the body? This is just stupid. Sorry, I couldn't think of another word, but this should be removed. So when we go to the legislature, it's clear. Remove that. Put cupping and moxibustion in section E or F or something, another letter that includes this in the definitions or within our scope. But cupping and moxibustion is not acupuncture. Can you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So this is pretty simple. This is what it tells us. It tells you what we can do. So A is acupuncture, and we need another letter that says what is our what we can do. So cupping and moxibustion need their own place here. You see, and also the bleeding is not listed here. So legal counsel, please note all of these specifics that I've been articulating for 20 years for today. That bleeding is in the regulations, not here in the definitions. Cupping and moxibustion is not accurate, and we want to be accurate. So this is not changing our scope of practice or anything. It's just being more clear. Okay, can you go to the next slide, please? So California uses the ACOM comprehensive standards. So I'd like to point out a couple of things here. One is specifically to today's topic, the bleeding. You don't see bleeding here because nobody calls it bleeding anymore. The nation, the hospitals, we're working in the veterans centers. The terminology is therapeutic blood withdrawal. The therapeutic blood withdrawal is the proper terminology, and it is demonstrated here by the ACOM guidelines. Also, I wanted to point out that the ACOM has eliminated Oriental Asian massage. This is really offensive. For a long time, it's very offensive. But in today's climate, it is not only offensive, but you look to people are dying. People are dying because of using Oriental Asian massage. And it is degrading to the women of our profession. And it is degrading to us as a regulated primary care, profession. We are using degrading, outgraded terms that are dangerous. So you can see clear. Manual therapy is the standard in the country. Manual therapy is what is in the ACOM guidelines, and we need to eliminate those two terms. But today's topic is therapeutic blood withdrawal, and I would be amiss if I didn't point out the issue of manual therapy. So you can see therapeutic blood withdrawal in the ACOM standards. Okay, next slide, please. So the Little Hoover Commission was to analyze our education and the test and many aspects of our profession and options and alternatives to consider regarding our legal scope of practice. And this is from the Little Hoover Commission recommendations and report to the Acupuncture Board, to the board, a long time ago. So I don't blame this board because we keep getting new boards. And since I'm the senior person in the room, I wanted to bring our public members aware of this. Our practitioners know this. But Little Hoover, almost 20 years, directed the Acupuncture Board to clarify and define questionable areas that have been outlined. Next slide, please. I need the wrong order. But the Little Hoover Commission went on to say the proper education, training, and competency in any areas of expanded scope of practice. So things that we discussed, like lasers and other technological things, we would expand our scope, but they must be sure that the training and are competent in this area. The requirements are not associated with expansion of scope, but they do include an increased focus on areas whose inclusion in legal scope is being debated. However, in addition, they specifically, Little Hoover specifically identified this topic, bleeding. In addition, some items, such as bleeding, are included in the curricular requirements, included in our education, but they are not in statute. They are not considered in our scope of practice. You can clearly see I have made a good legal case for change because the Little Hoover Commission identified the bleeding. And I show you it's in regulation, not in statute, as Little Hoover identified. So moving forward, we request the Acupuncture Board, the CAB, work together with CalAtma and the legislature, the Evan Lowe and Business and Professions Committee to point out this very easy, very simple clarification. This is not an expansion of scope of practice. This is following Little Hoover guidelines to connect the regulations and the statutes. So I hope someone can make a motion, or if not a proper today, because not identified as such on agenda, to certainly put this at the top of the next agenda, because next year Cal has a legislative vehicle where we have three. This is one given us by Evan Lowe, and we want to get the regulators, the board, working with the profession and the legislature, as everybody wants. Everybody's uniting, which is Cal Atma's purpose, and we are doing exactly what we should have been doing for a long time. But we have a new board here, and I really thank Dr. Mataki and the staff for putting this together and having the wisdom to realize that we needed to really do a better job. And as we go to Sunset Review next year, isn't it fantastic for the cab to stand with us and be proud that this cab led by Ben Bodea has followed through with the Little Hoover Commission recommendations. This is a star for this board to show everybody what a damn good job you guys are doing. So to our public members who are maybe hearing this for the first time, and professional acupuncturists on the board who've been standing here with me for 20 years arguing the same situation, but now clearly I have shown you why, and I want to thank Michael Fox for the graphics today, and thank you very much. I hope I didn't take too much time, and I'm open to any comments or questions from the board.
Thank you, Mr. Miller, for your presentation. So I have a question for legal, Mr. Chang Yu, and also Mr. Bodea. Does the board member, if they have a question, also how do we want to approach on this? Do I open up to board members if we have questions to discuss?
Yeah, this is an opportunity for the board to discuss the content here, as well as the board members' opinions and experiences and knowledge of the item being discussed here, specifically therapeutic blood withdrawal. So I would engage in discussion.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you.
So this is a Fred Chan UDCA legal.
Yes.
Mr. Bodea is correct. The board members may ask questions, of the presentation. However, I do want to just point out that this is discussion only, and that there is nothing on the agenda that would authorize the board to take any type of action on this item.
Thank you, legal, Mr. Chang Yu. Okay, so now I would like to open up to the board member first. If you have any questions and discussion, and appreciated K. Altima, Mr. Miller, for putting this slide together and also give us the education, background education. And I can start with myself, and then we'll hope other board members freely to discuss on this. It sounds like this has been 20 years or even longer. So I would like to see, sorry, I might have the background. Okay. So first I want to say that acupuncture has been implemented in the hospital, and I can see as a physician and also licensed acupuncturist. I started the practice here 20 years ago in the public hospital, has been volunteered many years in the public hospital. Some of you know about the acupuncture in the public hospital. So there's many doors opened up for this acupuncture profession. And we do currently have the primary care practice in the hospital and in the outpatient setting. So I want to mention that. I want to echo what Mr. Miller here presented. Physicians really started looking into it because it's really a big issue for chronic pain issues. And you can see the cost is really astronomical. The numbers is quite high, a big cost and burden for the healthcare system. So acupuncture for pain management has been well accepted in the physician world. But back, I would say is always keep that in mind for physician. Many of the physicians still don't really know a lot about acupuncture procedures or practice. So I encourage and also continue applaud for the acupuncture profession to reach out to the other professions. We've been working very closely with, in the hospital with orthopedic surgeons, also physical therapists, also rehab. So many of the physicians, neurologists, they start to refer to us, for stroke patients. And my question here is with the bleeding technique, and that's maybe need a lot safety guideline, need more education, safe practice on bleeding. If a patients have a low platelets on the blood thinner medicine, so that maybe association can continue educate the public and also profession, because that's one of the physician big hesitation about the bleedings, right? So I'm just want to open up here, and I want to open up to the other board members. Any board members want to, Mr. Miller, you wanted to answer some question, or you want to?
I understand your concern. Currently working in the hospital, but I want to point out that bleeding is part of our training. And it's already within our training. And I'm sure Jock from Empress College or Ron from Five Branches can weigh in and say the level of training in our approved programs addresses the concerns that you bring about, Dr. Mateki. This is not changing our scope of practice. This is not changing our training that currently exists. The point is that we are trained here, and it is in the regulations. We just believe that it should be clearly articulated within the statutes. So your concerns are echoed amongst all of the educators, all of the 17 approved schools, and from our perspective as a professional association, we hold public safety as a primary concern of CalAtma, as is the CAB's job.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Board members, any of you have any comments or questions for the presentation? Yes, Member Kim, please unmute your phone. Yes, please.
Yeah, first of all, I appreciate the Neil Miller's continuous effort to improve the quality and standard of acupuncture, acupuncturist scope for last, gosh, how many years is this? We're talking of almost 20 years. So yeah, I was impressed that we need to. This is the pretty early the items that we should discuss in the early earlier times, but some reasons it's been carry on like this, and we as have to be more up to date to the standard and the terminology of current medical system. So I totally agree with what Neil Miller said, and I think we should discuss this and in the board and propose the language to the legislatures. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you, Member Kim. Mr. Bodia, would you like to add?
I see that Member Chen has a hand raised up.
Let's see. Sorry, apologize. Yes, Dr. Chen. Yes, please. Thank you.
Yes, for a while I raised my hand.
I will apologize. Okay.
Maybe your screen did not show.
Yeah,
The screen has limited space to see everything. Thank you, Mr. Ben and Dr. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to give comments. So about bleeding, since it is our regulatory language, so a school also were teaching it, and actually in the clinic, I think the acupuncturists, the more or less practice it, but I have a mixed feeling about this. It works, my experience, the bleeding, but I don't do a lot of bleeding, just use a little bit of needle. We need to have different size. If you use a little bit needle and poke on the like a fresh ankle, a sprained ankle, and if you put needle there, it will cause bleeding. 1 drop or 2 drops, several drops. So that's what we are practicing. And so I'm not. I try to understand what Dr. Miller's intention, the language about the bleeding. So I also know some practitioner, they don't do any diagnosis. All the patients come in. Actually, it's in my area. Is everybody just do called a wet cupping. It's everybody, because his English is not very good, and he does not. He look the patient and very brief question, ask patient, and then he's very famous. He practiced since 1980 or 70, but he's not practicing now because some other reason. So he was in the court 3 times. He was sued by somebody 3 times, and he was able to get out. I don't know the detailed process, but my feeling is the bleeding to certain extent. I understand that the board regulation about bleeding to certain extent, not go too wild. So I would like to know a little more from Mr. Miller. Any limitation for bloodletting? Thank you for your effort, and thank you for over 30 years working for this profession and bring up a lot of new idea, some good ideas. So I would like to know a little more detail. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I respond?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Dr. Youngping. So again, I point out to the excellent job that our training programs do. I have seen the Saturday Night Live skit where they show bleeding and there's blood all over the room. And I have seen videos from places in China where they do all kind of other bleeding. But that is not what our training is here. That's not what's taught in the schools. So, and the situation that you pointed out, if you know of somebody who no longer has a license and they're bleeding people and they are sued 3 times, this is not the standard. This is incompetence. So I understand your concerns to stop incompetence, and it's well noted. But and when public comment comes, I hope some of the schools can jump in and say what I'm saying is correct. We have an excellent program to discuss throughout the country the therapeutic blood withdrawal. ACOM, all schools have an approved curriculum, and California has approved the same curriculum.
Thank you.
We're not changing anything.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Miller. I apologize to interrupt because we have a few board members raise their hands. Maybe what I do is I let them to make a comments or questions. Maybe you can all answer together. We still have a few more agendas, but I would like to see what other questions, if there's a repeated, you can help to answer all. And I appreciate your willingness to work with the board and be here today. Let's go to the public member, Mr. Osorio. I apologize. I know your hands have been raised for a while, so please go ahead. Thank you. We would love to hear your part of comments or questions. Please unmute your phone. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jackie. Thank you for your time, Mr. Miller. I would like to know if we can put this on the agenda. It's something that I think we all need to discuss, and I appreciate the time that you have spent, Mr. Miller. I know you've talked about this before, and hopefully we, the board, can do something.
Thank you, Mr. Osorio. Okay, Member Kim, I see your hands is raised.
Yes, I'd like to make comment on the issue of the safety, and as Dr. Miller mentioned, whether it's incompetency or safety issues. I can tell you that I've been doing those so-called wet cupping because I learned from my teacher. If there's someone's pain is long enough and old, then there should be a old blood stasis in there. You should take it out first. That's the wisdom. So, for example, recently I'm seeing a Caucasian 70-some-year-old patient, female. She is a retired anesthesia specialist. She's been working as an anesthesia specialist for 40 years and now retired. And she has this strain on her paraspinal muscle. So she did what she learned and knows. So she did a nerve block, she did epidural, or she did physical therapy, and then finally she was recommended acupuncture. So she found me because she lives not far from where I practice. So first, I was very cautious because she's anesthesiologist, that's a pain management specialist. So I did some needle, I put some moxa, and then second visit, I did some cupping on top of that with some therapeutic oils. Third time, when she's been feeling better, I did the wet cupping. I did use lancet, and then I did some cupping. Of course, I'm using the disposable cupping cup, and now she's so happy. So here we want to see, maybe the doctor, the acupuncturist that Dr. Chen mentioned, has been doing what he's been doing in China, maybe a long time ago. But here you have to be very careful because we live in a different system. We live in a different medical and legal, environment. So that's something that we can, specify here in the education and training, and also when we change the language of our scope of practice, we want to update, that fits into the current situation and terminology. So as long as, especially in this pandemic, we have to, of course, use our PPP when we see the patients. And we have to extra cautious on doing this kind of procedure, but maybe we'll be more free from this pandemic things, and then all this people's nervousness on this any infection from any medical procedures. So we can update. We can I think the point here, what Dr. Miller brought here is we need to update our language on our scope of practice and or other terminologies. That's the, I think, the most important point here. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Kim. I just wanted to add what you said with the cupping. So there is a code for cupping. I think many of us, when we practice medicine, we always want to know the code you can billing. And I do know there is a cupping, there's a code for cupping. But the issue is most of the insurance don't cover it. So maybe this is some project the associations, can educate the insurance payers to understand, what cupping is. Maybe will help, advanced what you, as a professions would like to move forward. I think the billing and the code is, that's the part maybe it's important for the professions move forward. Okay, so I know we had a lot of members as being mentioned and made a comment. So I would like to see, Ms. Miller, would you like to, to add?
Yeah, I have just a last comment. As I told you, Cal-Am had legislative vehicle for this, and we were working on the language that it clearly spells out that this does not include hypodermic needle, that this is using the traditional acupuncture needle or single-use disposable lancet, and that all of the clean needle technique and so on and so forth is built in to the language of the bill to assure the legislators that safety is the primary concern, and that we're simply just clarifying the scope, not changing anything.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. So if the board member don't have any questions now, I would like to open it up to the public. But also I want everyone be mindful, we've been on this agenda items for a while, so I would like to see how many public would like to make a comments on this agenda, and then we need to move to the next agenda item. So moderator, would you please help to open up for the public comment on this? Thank you.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I would like to open up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click that Q&A icon at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen. It looks like we do have a couple individuals who have requested public comment. We'll go in the order that they're received. Our first individual is identified as Ron. Ron, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. I am unmuting your microphone now.
This is Ron Zeidman from Five Branches University. First, I would like to thank the board for putting this on the agenda and allowing one of our community members to present. Second, I would like to thank Mr. Neil Miller for his presentation and for being of service to our profession for so many years. My main point is I would like to ask the board itself, maybe Mr. Budia and maybe legal counsel, that this is a good opportunity to see how we process a good and obvious idea. This therapeutic blood withdrawal. That how can we in the public see where good recommendations are made, where board members and others agree it's a good idea, but then it goes nowhere. We just had a wonderful discussion. So what is the process where these good ideas can be translated into, you know, a change in regulation and a change in our scope of practice? I'll end by saying that, you know, it seems that our license number 1 was given to Miss Miriam Lee, who played a very important role in establishing our profession. And her main technique was what I still call bleeding. I'm learning to call it therapeutic blood withdrawal. So this is a very established practice in acupuncture and Asian medicine. It's not new or experimental. So again, my question to both legal counsel today and Mr. Bodia, is there something that the acupuncture board can do besides talking about it, which we've done for 20 years? And can you inform us what that process is? Or is it that we need to go through our representatives to introduce this type of change? Thank you.
All right, we will move on to our next individual who has requested public comment. Individual identified as Donna. Donna, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. I am unmuting your microphone now.
Thank you. My name is Donna Chow. I'm a licensed acupuncturist as well as a CE coordinator for eLotus. Just wanted to say that bloodletting courses, they do cover safety extensively because this is such a taboo topic that we want this to be taught correctly for the safety of all parties involved, including the practitioner and the patient. Bloodletting isn't used to release blood from a sprained body part. We've never taught that in any of our courses with our instructors. There's actually a strategic procedure for each specific condition, and there are specific parts of the lower extremities or on the back for bloodletting, depending on what it's for. Bloodletting is the #1 modality for chronic conditions stemming from blood stagnation or stasis. And so just to give an analogy, let's just say a steak is a chronic disease. Acupuncture is like a dull knife and bloodletting is a sharp knife. They will both do the job. It's just one is a better tool for the job and one will take care of the problem quicker. So that's all my comment. Thank you.
All right, we will move on to our next individual who has requested public comment, individual identified as Mary. Mary, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. I am unmuting your microphone now.
Thank you for this opportunity to speak, President Mateki. Thank you to the California Acupuncture Board for entertaining this presentation by CalAtma. And thank you, Neil Miller, for taking the time and attention to prepare such a thoughtfully presented thing on bloodletting and the therapeutic blood withdrawal. I agree with Neil Miller that the statute and the codes need to match. There's no reason why they shouldn't. And I would like to ask legal counsel here, you mentioned that we can't make a motion to have the board acknowledge that they don't match. Can you please advise us by what method can a motion be brought so that the action can be taken so that the statute and the codes for the business and profession match? It's an obvious problem. And, you know, nationally, if we're trying to get a national standard, here in California, we have a very high standard of practice, and it would make sense that we would be the model with our own languaging to be able to proffer that for the future for a possible national standard, and to be able to show the nation that here in California, we've gone through many, many hoops to get acupuncture to be a licensed practice, and that we want to be acknowledged as the professionals in this realm. We are the ones with the training. We are the ones with the background. We are the ones with the safety. We are not just making a specialty out of something, you know, that's a Western medicine thing like a board. We are the acupuncture board. We are the acupuncturists. And this is the practice of medicine from 4,000 years ago. We're not just inventing these practices and adopting them as a, you know, some kind of technical thing that an MD or a PT or a chiropractor can add to their practice. And I am not in favor of this kind of idea. And that's why we need to, as acupuncturists, make it clear that this is our profession, that we are the people that are the doctors of acupuncture, and that we do the
30
acupuncture.
seconds.
So, legal counsel, can you please let us know what we can do to bring a motion or to do the proper procedure to make the statutes and the codes match? Thank you very much.
All right, we will move on to our next individual who has requested public comment. And as a reminder, we will not be responding to raised hands from the public. Please access that Q&A icon at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen, and please type, "I would like to make a comment." Our next individual who has requested public comment is identified as Philip. Philip, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. I'm unmuting your microphone now.
Thank you. Thank you for the board. Thank you for Neil Miller for your presentation. I have several points. First, in your presentation, mentioned about the cupping. Cupping is not acupuncture. Yeah, that it is true, but cupping is part of the scope of practice of acupuncturists. I know you mentioned you're not intend to change anything, but I just want to emphasize this. Second is for the term of bloodletting or blood drawing. I believe in the TB public hearings in 2015 something, talking about the term. It is very, very hard to find the right term because all the term like we use in bloodletting, it is a kind of to someone maybe kind of misleading or something, but we really couldn't find a better term. That's why we use this term. And the term is really, really important, but that may lead someone to do something improperly, like a blood drawing. Blood drawing is used in Western medicine. They use the syringes to do the blood drawing. I do saw someone, they use the syringe but it is not supposed to practice in California. They use syringe to draw the blood from the veins, because this is a same scope of practice in California, but I don't think this is properly, and maybe like a blood dropping may be more proper to describe this scope of practice. I'm not sure. And another thing is maybe it is very important for the description, the detailed description for this concept of what is the bloodletting or blood drawing, blood dropping, like including what kind of tools we're supposed to use, what kind of needles are not supposed to use, and what's the type of bloodletting, and so on, with more detail that will ensure the safety. Thank you.
All right, this is the moderator. We will move on to our next individual who has requested public comment. Individual identified as Zhang. You'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. I am unmuting your microphone now.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity to open to the public to tell the opinion. And thank you for Acupuncture Board to support us for so many years. And thank you for take care of us. And as acupuncturist, I think we right now the most important things is we need to change our master degree to PhD degree. I think this is most important because right now the chiropractors, physical therapists, they are all PhD degrees. And also the patients, I think when they see the licensed acupuncturist and the chiropractor, physical therapy, they are in different level. They trust the chiropractor and the physical therapy more than acupuncturists. Even my patient, they come from all over the country. They think acupuncture treat them very well. They think it's better than the other pain management, but they still, the insurance company, they still treat us not fair, for my opinion, especially ASHP. And so that's why I think maybe it's time to go one step up to be a PhD degree for all acupuncture licensed. So I think that time, I think we will be more powerful to talk with the insurance company and to keep acupuncture go higher. Thank you very much.
All right, this is the moderator, and it looks like that was our last individual who has requested public comment. Would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thank you, moderator. Yes, Mr. Bodia.
Thank you, Madam President. I can address some of the items coming up that were being directed to both the executive officer and legal counsel, if you wish.
Yes, please.
In terms of next steps, we do appreciate the profession coming to us and letting us know this is within their scope, that this is a safe practice. The board cannot make a motion here to support this or oppose this at this time. The way the board would be able to do such an action is if there was a bill introduced that would clear or clarify the scope such that it is listed in statute. And then the board would be, like yesterday, reviewing all the bills that are before the legislature that would affect the board and can take a support or oppose or watch position on. Definitely in the approach, I imagine the association or the interested parties would be continuing to approach the board or at least send the board information on the safety of what's going on, because ultimately we want to ensure that this is that we are protecting the public, right? And we are hearing comments here that this is a safe and effective item. and you would just need to be able to convince the legislators of that as well. However, being that you have established a precedent, it is likely that the board can take a position on this based on those findings as you continue to bring it up with the board and also take it up with the legislature. But for the board to get involved in scope is a very touchy subject. The board's role is not to address scope. The board's role is to ensure that scope is enforced. So again, the board can definitely say, we've reviewed this and we think this about this practice, but it would still require that it not be initiated by the board in this situation. It has to be initiated through the legislative matter.
Thank you, Mr. Boudia. I just want to echo what Mr. Boudia has said. Is that's the process for me being a clinician and also learn the legislature, how the process with the bills, because sometimes we react or we start act on it as a public or as a licensee's side. Is the bill already being approved by legislature? And then we start reacts like, oh, this is not what we wanted. Oh, this is what we wanted. So I think there's a timelines, as Mr. Boudia said, you know, it's the great example like yesterday when the bill get introduced, and then that's how association licensees and you all get together and start, you know, work, and then the board can work with, collaborate with you together on the issues. And when the bills get approved, and then you come to the board, that will be a problem because the board can't really do anything after that. That will be a lot of work is for the stakeholders need to work with the legislature, go back to the legislature who, you know, approved the bills. So there is the process, and I know I have to learn a lot to get myself up to the speed. So I just want to echo to Mr. Boudia. The board is here to listen to everyone, and we always want to support, to work with the stakeholders, but still public protection is our high priority. Okay, so I think this item, we've been spend quite a time on it. If no one have any further questions, I am going to move on to the agenda item 19. Does everyone okay? Board members, you okay if I continue? Okay, I don't see any rejections. So I will move on to the agenda item 19. And thank you, moderator, for all your help here. So the item 19 is a discussion, the new acupuncture board fees, business and professional code section 4970 and 4971. And Mr. Boudia, please.
Thank you, Madam President. Let us turn to item 19. So this agenda item is a carryover from the last board meeting when board members requested both the wall license fee and the CE hour course fee be discussed again. This is noted as a discussion only item. We'll go ahead and start with the wall license. The history with the wall license is that prior to 2021, the wall license was just a static license. That is, it wasn't a unique identifying license. It was just a license that had the individual's name and license number, and it was signed by the appropriate authorities, stating that they practice at this location. However, there was no location listed or that they're practicing there. It just was required to be hung up in the office. AB 779 changed this such that it made the wall license a license that had a unique identification number. It was required it to be renewed, and it became a place of practice license. And when the wall license was prior to the fee increase of 2021, the wall license, as it was referred to back then, note the name is the same, but one is now a more official place of practice license. That cost $15 prior to the fee increase. After the fee increase and the fee study showed the cost should rise to $50. And this was brought up to the board, both in the fee study in 2019, as well as when the fees then were adjusted in 2020, before it went before the board. And again, there was no adjustment. It was just, was the proposed fee. And AB 779 required now that these licenses be renewed every 2 years. There were no positions opposed to this item. As a matter of fact, we have a couple of associations, including CalAtma, stating that they were for the wall license, which is a place of practice license. Now, again, that happened before the fee increase, so it may have just been that that wasn't captured by our stakeholders as that was going through. We also have, let's see here, I thought we had a list of other regulated healing arts professions that you require a place of practice license. I am not seeing this right now, so please excuse me for a moment. But there are additional healing arts professions that do require that. Chiropractic has a satellite license. Veterinary board has a place of practice. And so these are rather large practitioners or big healing arts practitioners. I found it, sorry. If you turn to the last item, establishment licenses for other DCA programs, you will see we have acupuncturists, of course, chiropractic examiners, Dental Board of California with additional office permit, dentist with a mobile dental clinic, Board of Optometry with a branch office, and again, Veterinary Medical Board. Any questions from the board members? I feel that the board approached this with great transparency, engaged with stakeholders, and we understand that this was a transition and does change things for our licensees. But as we see, there are other healing arts professionals that do require this. And as a consumer of various health services, I do check on these licenses. Maybe I'm a little bit biased because I am a state employee and therefore I'm aware that I can look up the license, but I do look up both license numbers and place of practice numbers when entering an office. So I encourage the adoption of this now requirement, and I caution the profession from flaunting or attempting to counterfeit as a joke or as a way of message. Yes, I've seen these other licenses. It's a piece of paper with writing on it, and that writing says that you're good to go. So we want to be able to rely on these items, and this will increase consumer confidence. That is all I have on this item. Any questions on the wall licenses from the board members? I do not see any. Would you like me to move on to the continuing education hour fee, Madam President, before we open it up to public comment?
Yes, please.
Thank you. The second item for the fees review is the per hour continuing education course fee. We had a number of stakeholders show up at our board meeting in December, challenging this fee. And this is, since then, board staff, including Jay, myself, our CE coordinator, Jeremiah, and David Bruggeman, we met with the stakeholders to hear their item. They brought their attorney, and we also met, we brought our legal counsel, Fred Chan Yu, and we did discuss this item. And I would like to turn now to turn this item over to our legal counsel so that he can provide a more legal grounding in this matter.
Good morning, Madam President, board members. After hearing public comment from last meeting regarding the issue of the board's authority to reduce minimum continuing education provider fees, I went back and conducted further research of Business Professions Code section 4970. Of note, I researched the legislative history to determine what was the intent behind the language of that section. I did not see any mention about the legislature giving the board the authority to charge fees below the statutory minimum. Granting the board the authority to go beyond what the law mandates is an important point, and should have been mentioned in legislative history if that was the intended result. In addition, the fact that the legislature has set a range of fees indicate that it did not want to give the board to go below the statutory minimums, since it would be illogical and unnecessary to set a range for a fee and then tell the board that they can go below that range. Therefore, after looking at this issue in depth, it is my opinion that the board does not have the legal authority to reduce the statutorily mandated fee minimums via regulations. I'd also like to add that this course fee requirement does not prevent providers from offering a certain course to the public for educational purposes. My understanding is that the individual taking the course would not receive credit for the course, but payment of the fee is not a necessary requirement for the course to be offered to the general public. Does anyone have any questions?
And if I can piggyback on that, and thank you, legal counsel. Just to address the letters coming in from the stakeholders that have been included in your materials, I do want it noted that the providers are not contesting the CE provider fee, and they're not contesting the CE course fee. What they're requesting of the board at this hour is to create an additional application and to label that a application for a renewal of a previously approved course, and to have a lower fee set for that. Now, the board cannot, as legal counsel just established, lower that fee or create that other application based on the statute as created in 2020, as implemented in 2021. The time for discussing this was brought up both in 2019 when we were reviewing the fee audit, and we had a much more complicated fee structure at that time. And again in 2020 in August when we reviewed the revised language before taking a position of support on it. And there was no comments in opposition back in 2019 or in 2020. And that is all. Board members, do you have any questions for us?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Baudier, and thank you, legal Mr. Chen Yu. And I see members Harabedin's hands up, so please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam President. And I appreciate the overview from Fred and Mr. Baudier. I guess from the letters from the constituency, the CE providers, I think that the real concern for them, as Mr. Baudier said, was the renewal fees that, you know, according to the letters, could be anywhere from $5,000 to $30,000 a year in cost, which just wouldn't make it feasible for them to maintain their libraries, and ultimately could shrink the number of courses that are being offered, which I think is a concern. And I think to that concern, I guess my main question is there a reason why renewal fees would have to be on an hourly basis rather than just on a per course basis, which I think would save the providers a lot of money and hopefully keep the library of options open. And it seems as though the regulations might be ambiguous as to whether the per hourly versus per course distinction necessarily weighs in on renewals. And I just wanted to get legal and staff's view on that, because that may be an easy way for all parties to come to a mutually agreed upon solution here. And then I guess secondly, since I have the floor, I guess what is the justification according to the legislative history? I'm sympathetic to the argument that the CE providers make, which is they get that fees upfront for new courses should be paid. But what is the justification for renewal fees or fees on courses that are already existing, that are in an online library? And if it's not really costing us, the Acupuncture Board, or the state, any money to really audit those videos or do any extra work, what is the point of the actual renewal fee, and what is it looking to reimburse or pay towards? So I guess those are my two questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Baudier, please.
Thank you. Excellent question, Member Harbedian. The fee itself is not just for the approval of the course. The fee itself is actually to cover the approval, the review of the application, the approval, as well as the monitoring of the program itself and the enforcement of any action. This would also include auditing the course, as well as auditing our licensees. So it's not just I'm looking at an application cost. It is a programmatic cost, and we do not have enough staff to be able to do that. The board has identified that it wants to take a look at the continuing education quality. The legislature in the last 2 sunset reviews has questioned the board's lack of sufficient continuing education audits on its licensees as well, and there's just no staff for it. Prior to this year, there was absolutely no fee. The only fee was to be a CE provider, which was $150 every 2 years. And we have a staff person right now that's trying to keep up with the influx, and it does require some extra hours outside of the 40 to be able to manage that and to meet the proper timeframes in responding to that. So there is the additional programmatic costs associated with that. And as we discussed yesterday during the budget report, the board is going to be insolvent in the next few years again, based on the current fees, even with the current fees. But what wasn't included in the revenue projections was the CE course fee. So we don't have any data to see how much this will offset the program and how much it will support the program with the intention that the board has and the statute is directing the board. Just to clarify, with the CE audits, the reason why the board hasn't had to address those as adamantly as one may expect is because the languaging in the statute states that the board may audit. Now, it is critical that the board does audit, but the board it wasn't required. There was no terminology such as shall audit or must audit. But we find that when we do run our continuing education audits, we do find violations, both on the licensee's part, in terms of what we see is like people not taking the right courses, not paying attention to whether or not the course was approved, to the CE provider's part of not issuing the certificates of completion on time, not applying, like issuing certificates stating that the course was approved when it wasn't approved. So that affects the licensee directly. Please. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Bodia. Yeah, thank you. So I'm sorry, are you still talking? I'm sorry, I didn't want to cut you off.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know there's Mr. Hurd, your hands is raised, and also Member Harabedin, if you want, to comment or more questions. So I let Mr. Hurd first, or would you like to start? Yeah, go ahead, Member Harabedin first, please.
Oh, no, thank you. And thank you, Ben, for that. I appreciate that. The only other question I guess I had, which was the per hour versus per course distinction. Is there any, I guess, in your view, in legal's view, is it clear that we have to be charging per hour versus per course? And I appreciate your response, Ben. I think that was helpful context.
Certainly, Member Harbedian. The per hour as opposed to per course, it just again deals with the monitoring aspect. It's easier to monitor a 1-hour course as opposed to a 50-hour course. And actually the statute that we got enacted limits a CE course to just 50 units because there were some courses that were offering 200, 300, 400 hours. Now, a licensee doesn't need 200, 300, 400 hours to renew their license. They are more than welcome, as legal counsel addressed earlier, to take any course they want, really. It's just they won't receive credit for their license renewal. That's the whole purpose of the continuing education, is for education that is after graduation from acupuncture. So beyond the basic training for acupuncture. And the per hour affords that additional workload, allows for the additional workload, especially in the monitoring. If it's a 50-hour course, then there is going to the staff is going to have to review that course if we're monitoring it in some fashion. Is it really 50 hours? Are they saying it's 50 hours, but it's 40 hours? Now, we cannot review each course as it's coming in, which is just like the CE audit, would be part of a random selection in terms of the monitoring. So I hope that addresses your question.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bodia. So, Mr. Hurt, please. Thank you.
Thank you, President Matecki. And this is addressing John's earlier question too, just to get kind of a better overview of how we look at the fees and how they work in a regulatory board approach. Continuing education is a function of licensing, and licensing in general is the way the profession supports all the aspects of the board. There's a number of things in the board that are unsupported. Revenue, particularly enforcement, is one of our higher costs, but even some of the pro rata things like legal counsel, and there's many things that we have that aren't supported in fees. And so in using fees in general, renewal fees they're not just to pay for the renewal process itself, it's to pay for the overall function of the board. And CE fees are in that vein. And within our CE laws and regulations, there's no instruction on the board to have to justify those fees to the operation of that program. Now, historically, the board hasn't charged for that, and the licensees have been underwriting the CE program forever, as well as paying for the CEs themselves. So, so that's one piece. The other piece on the per hour fee, one of the issues is that, or one of the considerations is the providers offer those courses priced per hour, right? So they're also kind of ticketing it out that way in terms of what it is and what it costs people. And there's not even any oversight on that. And, so just in general, the real point I wanted to make is that our licensing functions often are used to pay for things that do not have associated fees with them. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hurd. Member Harabedin, please.
Yes, thank you, Jay. No, that's helpful. And I guess one follow-up to that is, and it goes to kind of the ongoing auditing / review. And one of the things that was raised in the letters was, how much time is staff, and Mr. Bodea had addressed this, if a new course is being audited and reviewed and staff has basically gone through and said, yes, we approve of it, it can be offered as a CE course. If the providers hypothetically were attesting or signing some sort of declaration every year to say, we have not changed this course, it is the exact same as what it was when you reviewed it in year one when it was new. If we had some sort of process where, the CE providers were submitting something to that effect, basically saying this is unchanged from when you issued it, it's new approval. Do you think that would change things? In other words, like, would staff have to go back and necessarily audit or review the course again if we knew, and if under penalty of perjury, the CE providers were basically saying, we haven't touched it, it's the exact same? I guess in that case, putting aside that the fees may be paying for things other than just the audit and the renewal itself, and I think your point's well taken, but would it help if the CE providers were to basically attest or say, look, this hasn't changed, it's the same as when it was when staff originally looked at it, and therefore, we don't really expect you to have to go back and do anything. Now, obviously, there'd be potential concerns for a CE provider to game the system and change. I don't know why they would necessarily ever do that, and it would be, obviously, fraud essentially if they did. But putting that aside, does that change things for staff or for kind of the ability for us to more efficiently manage, the auditing or overview and overseeing process of the CE providers' curriculum and course offerings?
Mr. Bodia? Oh, thank you, Member Harabedin. Mr. Bodia, would you like to help?
Thank you, Madam President. And yes, you are right, Member Harabedian. The review of the application itself and an attestation that nothing has changed would reduce the amount of time required to review the application. However, in terms of being able to monitor the program and enforce the regulations through an auditing process, that is the greater cost, right? I mean, we are we do need more people in the CE unit, but the greater cost is the enforcement, the investigation, the hiring of Division of Investigation officers to go into these courses where the staff isn't going. Now, it's a different time now because of the pandemic, but this is like, let's pretend the situation is normal. There are these other costs to doing it. So in terms of being able to assess the true cost of a shortened evaluation on the course application, yes, but in terms of the entire cost of the program, including enforcement, it's marginal. It's a marginal difference.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bodie, and thank you, Member Harry Bidding. I see Mr. Hurt, your hands is up, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one more thing too, and it's something for the board to consider. And I mean, it's something that staff talks about, and it's something that's kind of overall talked about with DCA healing boards and the CE programs. Is one of the aspects is to keep the licensee updated for the current standard of care and practice. And one thing is that incentivizing courses that don't need any review or they can just sort of sit there in the kind of the queue doesn't really encourage kind of addressing new material or freshened material, for the licensees to kind of do the standard of care. Now, I know that this is traditional medicine and there's many courses that don't change. And so there's definitely a very strong argument for having those there, but we definitely want to encourage new current material being presented for licensure that reflects a current standard of practice. And the practice is very much changing quickly, so that's just something to consider in looking at all this stuff. And I guess, we can definitely continue to have the discussion to find the best way to kind of meet all the needs of all the stakeholders involved in this process.
Thank you, Mr. Hurt. Mr. Bodie, please.
Thank you. I also just wanted to mention that this is becoming an item of interest at the department, and the department will be, I was at an executive meeting last week, the department will be looking at continuing education in the coming year and two. This is becoming a hot topic as well. As Jay mentioned, we want that continuing competency. Moreover, just to address some of the approaches that are recommended by the stakeholders, they're comparing our board's operations to the only other association organization that I'm aware of that offers continuing education, which is the NCCAOM. And the board is not structured the same as the NCCAOM. The board has to operate at cost as much as possible, stay within budget as much as possible. And so we need to constantly be doing fee studies. Not that NCCAOM doesn't do that, but the NCCAOM's option that they're suggesting is a bulk saving. So if I send in this many applications, then we get a discount. Well, for the board, the more applications we get, the more work it is. So we can't provide those kinds of cost savings that a regular business or a not-for-profit that doesn't have to ensure it's not keeping only 3 to 6 months of reserves in its account. So we cannot approach this the same way as the NCCOM is being used. And also other states don't necessarily go to the trouble, just like with the exam. They do not go to the effort of creating their own exam because they rely on the NCCOM. The same thing, they do not go to the effort to review and improve continuing education because they're using NCCOM's product, and that is their choice. But in California, we have this process. So just in terms of comparing the idea of using the NCCM approach. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bodie. Any other board member have any questions, comments on these items? It is 11:38, and I would like to open it up to the public, but I think, oh, sorry. Okay, Dr. Chen, I see your hands up. So member Dr. Chen, please.
Thank you, Dr. Mataki. So I heard the legal and the licensing manager, Mr. Hurt, and the EO, Ms. Badia. So I understand the CAB have this new fee schedule. based on the third-party study, and I believe the study is based on all the costs, and also for the board to be able to run Solvent. So the new fee for the Renewal application or courses. So I understand that it's not only for the review evaluation, it's also for the whole program, for the audit enforcement, the program like the business modernization, make the payment online available. So that I know costs a lot of labor work, costs a lot of money too. So it's a whole system. For the and then we have different system as in CCOM or other states. Is for California public protection purpose. We need to really auditing oversee the CE quality. So I think the staff is doing a good job. And I have another point is from the letter. The letter suggests the live CE course could be just automatically transferred to distance learning. About this, I have learned the live CE and the distance learning has some different requirements for some material. For some specific hand-on, like a diagnosis, like how to, if the instructor want to teach the student how to, the licensee student, how to find the right point, some specific needle technique that had to be hand-on, face-to-face, on-site. Right now, it's not available, but pandemic will be over. So that can causes you cannot just move to distance for one reason. And the second reason, all the distance learning will require the questionnaire, the CE participants, they need to answer the question. So the distance learning courses need to design all the questionnaire, which live CE course does not require. So there's a difference. You cannot say just automatically go to the distance learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chen. Yeah, I see Vice President Mr. Chan, your hands is up. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I had a comment on that. I understand the stakeholder and they are concerning about the fee increase. And I understand that, but don't forget the board is in the next 4 years, it's not balanced the budget. So I think we have to look at both sides of the equation. And concerning the increase the fee, is one side of the equation. Balance the budget, another side of the equation. So I think we had to make some adjustment and talk to the stakeholder or the professional organization and to come up some best solution for both sides of the equation. That's what my comment.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chan. It's always helpful. We have a CPA on the board members watch our finance and really appreciate it. So it is 11:43. Before I open up to the public, maybe I will give the board member and give everyone a bathroom break if you guys are okay. And then we will reconnect it. And also before we break, I just want to remind the public comments when you discuss issues or make a comment, please stay on with this agenda items. We'll appreciate it. And some of you have hands raised up. Please follow the instructions that the DCA moderator will help you. how to make a public comments, how to make the request. So let's reconnect. It is 11:43. Reconnected at 11:50. Just 5 minutes, 6 minutes break. Okay, thank you. Good morning. You see a moderator?
Yes, this is the moderator. It looks like we're back. I see a hand raised from board member Kitman Chan. I don't know if he had additional comments he wanted to add to item 19 or not.
Mr. Chan, your hands is up. So probably we will do is do a roll call first and just to see if all the board members are back. If that's David, would you do a roll call, please? Let's do a roll call first, then Mr. Chan, we will.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, okay, thank you. David, Mr. Brookman, are you here? Mr. Bodier.
He's arriving back right now. He'll be on in.
Okay, maybe I should do 10 minutes. Apologize.
Yeah, the restrooms at the other end of our building. I apologize for the delay.
I'm sorry.
Amy she knows the layout. She's had to take the long walk with us many times.
So as we do this morning,
Apologize.
I will call your name. Please unmute and let us know that you are here. Dr. McTechie.
Yes, present.
Kitman Chan.
Here.
Yongping Chen.
Here.
Jean Harabedian.
Here.
Francisco Kim. The board member Kim. We'll circle back to Mr. Kim. Shudong Lee.
Here.
Ruben Osorio.
I'm here.
Thank you. Francisco Kim, are you here with us at the moment? He may have been similarly disposed as I was.
If we have a quorum.
We certainly do. I show 6 members present, so we do have a quorum. We can continue.
Thank you. Okay. Hope member Kim will be joining us soon. Thank you, David. And I know member Mr. Chen, Vice President Chen, your hands is up if you have any comment on this item.
I'm sorry, I'm back. I'm back.
Okay, thank you. David, so we have a full quorum, 7.
Duly noted. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Chen, your hands is up.
I don't have a question, but I don't know how to take off my hand over there.
Okay.
This is the moderator. If you click that little tiny hand, raise hand icon again at the bottom of your participant list, it should lower it. I also believe.
Yeah, I got that.
Yep.
Thank you.
There's a keyboard shortcut also, which I think is Control-Shift-L, but do not quote me on that.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I'm confused. Okay.
Thank you, moderator. So any other board member have a question on this item? If you don't have it, and I will open up to the public comment for these items. And moderator, would you please help the public comment? Thank you.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I have opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment for agenda item 19. Please click that Q&A icon at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen. Looks like we do have a couple individuals who have requested public comment, so we will go in the order that they are received. Our first individual is identified as Dylan. Dylan, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. I am unmuting your microphone now.
Hi there, my name is Dylan Stan and I'm with Net of Knowledge. I'm a continuing education provider with the CAB. I just want to start off by thanking you, Ben, for your clear representation of our case. You know, it's been a pleasure speaking with you and Jay throughout this. You've been very open over the couple meetings that we've had, and it's been a pleasure. And thank you, Mr. Harbedian, for your idea of that attestation. You know, that's a great idea. We hadn't even considered it, and hopefully we can look at that together moving forward. Mr. Chan, we absolutely agree that the budget needs to be balanced, and we welcome the fees. You know, we believe that the larger provider fee increase and the course application fees are going to make that happen. And also keep in mind that the fee study did not actually take into account any course renewals at all. It was currently based on the new applications for the year that it was being done. So let's start with the problem again, short-term and long-term. As it stands, the fee change regulations you're currently putting through do not distinguish between new courses and courses that were approved. And it requires all courses to be resubmitted each year over and over, even if the content or the teachers haven't changed at all. As Harbedian mentioned, this leads to unlimited and excessive fees for continuing education providers. There really is no limit. And it disincentivizes anyone carrying a library of more than a couple courses. It's not affordable to small businesses, and flat out, we're going to be forced to drop approvals for many courses for people of California. So the short and long-term results of this are California licensees will have significantly lower number of continuing education opportunities to pick from. The available education of the state of California will be perhaps the lowest of the country. I mean, think about that for a minute. And I want to respond here to legal counsel Fred Chan Yu regarding your points about the board's jurisdiction and the history and all of that. In the previous and the current wording of California Business and Profession Code 4970, it begins with the sentence, the amount of fees prescribed for licensed acupuncturists shall be those set forth in this section unless a lower fee is fixed by the board in accordance with section 4972. 4972 states that fees fixed by the board shall be set forth in regulations duly adopted by the board. Also, the new laws speak about course applications, but they don't speak about renewals, like all the other fees in 4970 mentioned. They talk about applications and they talk about renewals, but this one doesn't. So we think that the board has the ability, if they want to work with us, to implement through regulations only, a separate fee structure. So I think we all agree that wider access to education is essential to keep licensees offering their best services to public, and we hope that the board will choose to act with us on this.
All right, this is the moderator. We'll move on to our next individual identified as, oh, I apologize, Greg. Greg, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. I am unmuting your microphone now.
Thank you very much again. Thank you, board, for considering our thoughts here. Dylan laid out a very nice case, and I don't want to step on his toes. I do want to emphasize a couple things that he said, however. And one of those that I think is of critical importance to the board is that the fee study that was undertaken did not consider renewal fees, which are the industry norm, and it is the way that things have basically been in the past. You do a initial application and then there are no renewal applications. So not having that split, like everything else that is under this 4970, is a very odd omission from the fee study and should be a major concern, I would think, for the acupuncture board to determine whether these are actual fees or fall under the California definition of taxes. And so I think that's something that should be considered here. The other thing that I'd like to emphasize from what Dylan Stan mentioned is we're talking a lot about the courses that are going to be available to our acupuncturists in the state of California, and those are definitely going to go down with this new fee structure, especially with the renewal fees. What hasn't been taken into account is that small businesses will go under. I personally have not made enough money in years of doing this to pay for those fees, and so I have no alternative than to actually drop out of doing CEUs. I just cannot afford it. So, and I know I'm not alone. There are a lot of small CEU providers that are in the same boat. So there is a concern, of course. We want proper education for our acupuncturists. We want to be able to provide that. We want it to be up to date. One of the things that was mentioned, that we want up-to-date courses. That was from Jay Hurt. And so do we as providers. And we do update our courses without changing major elements of our courses. We will do little updates as we go along. We don't keep a course for 20 years without updating it. So and it doesn't change the majority of the course. So I think we do tend to do that. And you'd be surprised at how little changes over the years. Having done this for over 20 years, there isn't a lot that changes over that 20 years. But I do make updates on small updates on a regular basis as I teach these courses.
30
So
seconds.
I don't think that's a huge concern. I think a bigger concern is fewer courses are going to be available to the acupuncturists. That's going to harm their ongoing educational process. And while doing that, you are going to be putting small businesses out of business with this new fee structure. So again, I encourage the board to look at this very closely and in the context of what we believe to be an improper fee study in the pursuit of these changes. Thank you very much. Appreciate your thought process around this and appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
All right, this is the moderator. We will move on to our next individual who has requested public comment. And as a reminder to members of the public, we will not be taking serial comments. All right, and our next individual is identified as Philip. You'll be given 3 minutes to speak in a 30-second warning. I am unmuting your microphone now.
Thank you, Philip Yang, representing ACMA. For the first is the wall license fee, $50, and renew every 2 years. Our association discussed about this fee. So eventually everyone opposed this fee, so they don't like to pay for these fees. Second is we agree with raise the provider fees and also the limited maximum 50 hours. We totally agree with this. And the third is if it's possible to change the application by mail right now. We have to download the form, and usually we may have sometime with the limit of the space, and plus the writings. Sometimes the writings are not clear. So if it's possible, we can make the application for the CEU online, so that would be much better. Thank you so much.
All right, this is the moderator, and we'll move on to our next individual who has requested public comment. Individual identified as Yoon. Yoon, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. I am unmuting your microphone now. Yoon Kim, your microphone is unmuted if you would like to make your comment.
Point of order, I'm not hearing anything. Is that, can you confirm, moderator, that we're not getting any audio from the public member speaking?
It appears that is the case. Public member Yoon Kim, if you are having any audio issues or if you don't have a microphone on your computer, what you may want to try doing is connecting your audio through your phone by clicking that audio and video tab up at the top of your WebEx screen, clicking switch audio, and then following the instructions on how to call in. In the meantime, we're going to go to our next public commenter, and I will circle back with you once we get through the rest of them. So in the meantime, we will go ahead and move on to our next individual identified as Mary. Mary, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. I am unmuting your microphone now.
Thank you, moderator and the California Acupuncture Board. My name is Mary Schultz with American Acupuncture and Integrative Medicine Institute. We are a CEU provider number 1436. I do agree with the previous commenters regarding the new CEU provider fees, that they are burdensome for people that are small business providers. And I would also add that they are burdensome for the larger CEU providers. And I would like to propose that the California Acupuncture Board perhaps consider the following idea, which would be the fees were increased to $500 for each 2 years. That's an increase of $350. That perhaps there could be some way that each provider would be able to present courses per year of their renewal at no fee, perhaps 5 for each year at no fee, and then thereafter have a graduated fee arrangement in terms of the number of courses that that provider has, so that the fee is, I guess you would say prorated to the size of the CEU provider, and then, make some kind of arrangement that way. It seems that that could be something that would, benefit the small provider and then be reasonable to the large provider. So what I did determine was that $350 divided by the average course of 8 units, which would be a regular CEU course, would yield about 4.3 courses to be able to be provided for with that extra $350. And then, perhaps the board would meet that 5-class minimum with another 5-class minimum for the 2-year renewal period. I think that we could work out this fee arrangement so that it could be both beneficial to the people who are receiving the education, which are the licensed acupuncturists, and those that are providing the acupuncturist with this education, which are the providers. I thank you for this time to comment.
All right, we will move on to our next individual who has requested public comment. Individual identified as Adam. Adam, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. I am unmuting your microphone now.
This is Adam White, licensed acupuncturist. I thank the board for including this item on the agenda. The hourly CEU fee level is unprecedented on any state level in the United States, taking fees from every other state in the United States combined. They don't approach anywhere close to the hourly fees. The hourly fees diminish the affordability of developing educational content, and as such, less courses covering the treatment of complex or rare syndromes and safe practice may result. The costs lower the availability of educational content that took acupuncture professors many years to create, and impacts public safety by disincentivizing professional content creation. If a CEU provider has 500 CEU hours of courses, for example, that means that board fees are now between $5,000 and $10,000 every 2 years. According to Dario Frommer, former majority leader of the California State Assembly, this cost per course is already approved by the board as a tax and not a fee, in direct violation of the California State Constitution. For details, please see the submitted document. On behalf of acupuncture colleges, professors, and CEU providers, in a signed letter to the board, we ask the board to focus on creating a renewal fee structure for CEU courses. Please focus on renewals of courses that have no change in content, because this is not clearly addressed in the statute or current regulations. Please use the board's authority to adopt a separate lower fee structure for renewals. We also request that fee collection on renewals be delayed until the board updates its regulations on CEU course renewals, because renewals are not clearly addressed in the statute or current regulations. Regarding collection of CEU fees on a per-hour basis without reasonable limitations, the board staff indicates that they are only following legislative orders. However, input from the board helped in the creation of the CEU course fee structure, and as such, it is the board's responsibility to remedy the situation created in part by board input. A lower renewal fee structure for CEU courses is a simple fix. Thank you for your time. I appreciate the board's attention to this matter. I would be happy to consult with the board on modernizing verification and auditing efficiencies as I have for other agencies. Thank you.
All right, this is the moderator, and it looks like we do have our other commenter from earlier, Yoon Kim, back. Yoon Kim, I'm going to unmute your microphone. You'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. I am unmuting your microphone now.
Great. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Wonderful. Thank you. This is Yoon Kim, president of Emperor's College. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. I want to let you know that Emperor's College, as well as a number of other schools in California, offer the doctoral program. And as part of, as really service to our students, we get our courses approved for CU units. So the students, as they are in the program, can continue to receive their continuing education credits. So we do not charge our students, our consumers. It's really part of the program. And so we make no revenue, no profit from the CU program. We actually, I think we break even given the administrative work required in offering these courses. And so we ask that the board give special considerations to the schools. The schools are different from private vendors, companies, and individuals really having these businesses. We offer the CUs as a service to our alumni and for our students in the program. So please, please take note of that and to give special consideration. Thank you.
All right, this is the moderator. We'll move on to our next individual who has requested public comment. Individual identified as Singh. Singh, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. I am unmuting your microphone now. Your microphone is unmuted.
Hi, thank you again to give us an opportunity to talk our opinion. This is Lei Zhang, license of acupuncture from Academy of Integrative Chinese Medicine and Pain Management. We are a provider for CE class, so I'm agreed to pay for board to for the CE class. I think the most important is we have a high quality CE class, and also I think we need to have some more attention for the real CE class. You know, I don't know how because we had a lot of CE class we went to, and some of the CE class is really not teaching the how to say not teaching the real quality acupuncture skill. So I think right now we need to change. We need to do something to make sure the CE class is quality and help acupuncture be better. Thank you very much.
All right, this is the moderator. We will move on to our next individual who has requested public comment. Individual identified as Neil Miller. Neil, you'll be given 5 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. I am unmuting your microphone now.
Neil Miller from CalAtma. CalAtma and myself understanding the licensing fee increase, and we understand it hasn't increased in 30 years and it's necessary. And we also understand the CE increase as being necessary. But we look at the wall license as as BS. This is unnecessary. This is unnecessary tax that will not accomplish what the stated intent is to check on the license and to show consumers that I have a wall license. For fun, I printed out wall licenses to see how close I could get to the public members. I've thrown them away. I'm not going to do it. I just wanted to see if I could do it, how hard it was. So this is not going to solve anything. If you needed another $50, then you should have made the fee $550 instead of $500. But to say that the wall license will do what you intend for it to do is wrong. And we are trying to work with the legislator because I understand this is now the statute, but it's improper. I don't think when we discuss the regulations, the discussion in open forum of regulations is not what happened. In terms of the legislative changes, as far as the CEs, there's different kind of providers, as Dr. Yoon Kim from Emperor stated. There are school providers, individual providers, association providers, and corporate providers. So the schools has their doctoral program. But Calama is investigating now to have a postgraduate doctoral program we can create for existing California licensees that have 3,000 hours education. So if we put a class together, and we are for 500 hours, in our first course would be acupuncture orthopedics. And now previously, for 18 straight years, the board approved a 350-hour course in acupuncture orthopedics. It's 25 hours a week for 14 months. But the minimal level you can have for a doctoral program, meeting with everything, is around 3,500 hours. So if we have 3,000 hours, we should be able to put together a 500-hour program in the same way that the schools are putting together their postgraduate doctoral programs. Our doctoral program will be able to be used at any school. So we have a standard of acupuncture or orthopedics. We believe any school can teach, and will really bring the cost down. But cost down to the practitioner who wants, like every single Asian association has asked for, is a doctoral or PhD program. So we, the profession, want to increase our knowledge. We want to increase our access to knowledge and get credit for what we're doing. So this discussion is not going away. We really want to have recommend that the board have a task force to actually, like we used to, sit down or on a Zoom, but to actually have real discussions with all the stakeholders, the doctor, Yoon Kim and Jock from Emperors and Five Branches, to have Ron and the associations, the ESL programs and Kalama to discuss these advanced continuing education programs and how we can work together to better
30 seconds.
To better protect the consumer. And I also want to acknowledge the idea of the tax versus a fee. And we agree with many of the corporate providers who have presented today.
All right, this is the moderator. And just as a reminder, we will not be taking second comments per the board request. At this point, it looks like there are no further requests for public comment. Would you like me to close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thank you, moderator. We apologize because we still have a lot of agenda on this issue, and the board encourage you reach out to the board, and we will continue work on this. Appreciate it. You guys understand that this has already become a bill, but appreciate the comments. The board will continue work with you, and let's see. I'm just wanted to see if legal staff and other executive officer, Mr. Bodil, or any board members do have any comments on this after you hear the public and you would like to make some comment. So let me start with member first. I see member Kim, your hands is raised. Go ahead, please.
Yes, after I hear all these public comments, I feel the same way as like yesterday when about those legislature. These discussions should be happened in the profession, in the form of I don't know, maybe a council or committee or association, and then come up with the profession's opinion and and then go to the legislature, because board is like this the legal counsel said, we only can follow whatever is on the statute. So same thing, like I said yesterday, when one association wants to adapt so-called national exam so that they can get a job in the VA system, while other associations, they think they regard them as a full spectrum primary care provider, and there's a lot of room to grow in subspecialties, and they want to be higher standard to be adapted. Same thing, I see the frustration and agony and all these problems out of these vendors who's providing continuing education, but it has to be within the profession, and then come up with one position and come up with some proposal, because as a board, as I see it, I've been noticing there are so many providers. The only question is the quality. So board couldn't come up with all this oversee and then audit. That's what it happens every time the Sunset Committee comes up. They always pinpoint on the audit. How do you audit all these providers? So I suggest to take all these concerns and all these discussions into one committee, or the council or roundtable or association, and come up with a position or any proposal, and then talk with the board, and then talk with the legislatures. Then we can come up with some kind of I think that's what other health professions are doing. So like I said, we are missing one standard. These standards have to be set by the profession. That's what I could.
Thank you, Member Kim. And I see Member Harabedin. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you to staff and everyone for doing so much work. You know, I will echo Board Member Kim's comments. I agree with them 100%. And all I will say, you know, is that this has been a very helpful discussion. I think staff has done a ton of work and dug in deep. And I would just encourage staff to continue to work with the stakeholders for the foreseeable future to hopefully come up with a mutually agreeable solution. And we obviously, we're balancing protecting the public and those licensees who are going to be using these videos. And we obviously want to make sure our balanced budget occurs. At the same time, we want to make sure that, you know, addressing some of the comments we just heard, that we don't reach a point in the near future where we don't have any more CE providers, because the cost of doing it is just is intolerably high. And so I am interested to see if staff can continue to work with the constituencies that we heard from today, and obviously the legislature, to Mr. Kim's point, to come up with something that works for everyone. So thank you again to staff and everyone who commented today. I think that there's good momentum here.
Thank you, Member Harabedin. Yes, Executive Officer, Mr. Bodilla, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to underscore, and thank you to members Kim and members Harabedian. We are definitely interested in working with our stakeholders. One thing I want to underscore here is the board has no authority to make any changes on this now. The statute is clear. Also, the board is going insolvent, as member Kim and myself have been pointing out, and that the fees for the continuing education courses are not figured in. We do not have that data to be able to see whether or not the board will remain solvent. We, of course, will continue to conduct fee studies to be able to track this appropriately, but the authority to change this lies with the legislature. So I feel it counterintuitive when the board clearly sees it is going insolvent for it to already be working with stakeholders to reduce fees and then go to the legislature. We are going to sunset next year, and we will be before the legislature. And we can definitely address these stakeholder concerns if they bring it as a bill. And we're welcome to provide them the expertise we have in how we run the program. But again, we want to make sure that we are not committing ourselves to going insolvent by trying to address this. Of course, we don't want to be overly burdensome. However, if this were considered a tax, it would have been evaluated as such by the legislative legislative legal counsel. So their analysis would have said, it would have automatically identified that this needed to have a 2/3 vote in the legislature for a tax. So I am concerned that this terminology is being used when that is not the case, and also that I'm hearing now some of the licensees using the term tax for the wall license as well, when it's clearly a fee for the administration of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bodilla. Member Harabedin, you would like to have a comments or questions? Let's see. Member Harabedin, your hands is up. No? Okay. So any staff or anyone else would like to have any comment on this? And if it's not, I would like to move to the next agenda item. Okay. So let's move to the next agenda items, number 20, discussion and the possible action to initiate a rulemaking to amend Title 16 CCR 1399.483, 1399.489, continuing education ethics requirements. Mr. Hurd, please.
Thank you, President Mateki. So we're going to go through a little bit of a history lesson here just to bring us up to speed. The agenda item next has been around since, I think, 2012. Although this board has been working on it, we've been trying to get this out and through for the last number of years. So I'm going to go ahead and use the memo provided in your packet kind of to help us stay clear and move forward with kind of understanding where we are today with this. So the issue is we're going to review and discuss the proposed changes to the text of CCR section 1399.483 and 1399.489 regarding the biennial continuing education requirement of 4 hours in law and ethics. The proposed regulation has not been publicly noticed with the Office of Administrative Law as to date. So the history, for many years, CCR 1399.489.2 allowed licensees to take up to 4 hours of CEs in practice management or medical ethics to meet their biannual CE requirements for licensure renewal. However, in December 1999, the regulation was repealed. Historically, the board's laws and regulations have not required that licensees take a minimum of CE hours in laws and ethics. In 2002, at the Continuing Education Focus Group meeting, there was discussion on the desire to require a minimum number of CEs in ethics at least in the first few years of licensure, but no mandates. The board promulgated CE regulations to address inadequacies, and specifically raising the renewal requirement from 30 CE hours every 2 years to 50 continuing education hours every 2 years. A minimum CE hours ethics requirement was not implemented at that time. At the November 11th, 2012 board meeting, the board reviewed the text for the new CE ethics requirement and delegated the further refinement to the then the then education committee. The following text was approved in 2012, and note this is not the current text being proposed. This is just historical. Continuing education. Courses in professional ethics and acupuncture shall take no less than 4 hours of continuing education in professional ethics every 2 years to meet his or her continuing education requirement. At the December 14, 2016 Education Committee meeting, members reviewed the proposed tests and requested additional changes be made by staff and brought back to the full board for consideration and possible approval. At the October 25th, 2018 board meeting, the board reviews proposed text. There was discussion on the issue on whether ethics requirement was category 1 or category 2. The board requested the staff to research other examples of ethic requirements and define active and inactive status in Part C of CCR 1399.489 and referred this item for further discussion to the Education Committee. At the March 28th, 2019 Education and Research Committee meeting, Member Harabidian summarized the ethics requirements discussion, which included directing staff to provide definition of ethics. Chair Harabidian reported that the committee approved the language and made the recommendation that this be brought to the full board. Previous discussion determined that several other boards have similar CE ethics and law requirement. The Board of Behavioral Sciences requires 6 hours of laws and ethics every 2 years, for all 4 license types that they offer. The Physical Therapy Board of California requires 2 hours of CE ethics, laws, and regulations per each 2-year renewal cycle. The Chiropractic Board requires 2 hours of CE in ethics and law per 1-year renewal cycle. The Psychology Board does not have a specific hour requirement for laws and ethics, but the licensees are required to self-certify on the renewal application that they have kept abreast of changes to the law. None of the boards referenced above have specific ethics definition included in their statutes or regulations, and that was one of the main inquiries that the committee had asked the staff to speak to. At the request of the board, staff has completed additional research on the basis of the definitions of medical ethics. For the American Medical Association, the nationally accepted Codification of Medical Ethics is the AMA Code of Medical Ethics, recognized as the most comprehensive ethics guide for physicians. For psychologists, the American Psychological Association, APA, offers the ethical principles of psychologist and code of conduct as a resource of ethical guidance for their profession. The Board of Behavioral Science, licensed marriage and family therapist, defers to the American Association for Marriage and Family Therapy, AAMFT, which has adopted as part of its bylaws the revised AAMFT Code of Ethics. The American Chiropractic Association also has a code of ethics targeted specifically to the chiropractic profession. Based on this research, staff recommends that the board simply set the requirement of 4 hours in laws and ethics and defer to the profession's definition of ethics. In relation to the provisions of existing law and regulations requirement, the board already provides access to the document entitled Laws and Regulations Relating to the Practice of Acupuncture on its website. This book also includes general provisions that affect all licensing, so it does provide licensees with laws and regulations fairly well. This is readily accessible to licensees, stakeholders, and the public as the Acupuncture Board's Laws and Regulations downloadable book. These reference materials serve as source materials regarding law and regulations CE providers use to determine to develop content in the CE coursework. Board staff has recommended additional language that will require that licensees that are coming out of inactive status to complete 4 hours of laws and ethics as a condition of returning to active status. Staff feels that this is necessary as it will be required of all licensees as part of their renewal process. Inactive licensees are required to complete 50 hours of continuing education hours as a condition of returning to active status. Since these CE hours can be applied to meet the CE requirements for the process into compliance with the 4 hours in law and ethics CE requirement when the licensee returns to active status. This will also ensure that no matter how much time the licensee has been on inactive status, when coming back to active status, they will learn new laws and regulations that may have gone into effect while they were on inactive status. So I'm going to go through the proposed amendment, and you can either follow me as I go through these, or you can look at the proposed language, which includes all these changes, but you can scroll through it. You'll notice when we look at the proposed language, because this has gone through many iterations, there's a lot to follow, and so the summary is really helpful in understanding what happened. So proposed amendment. Staff proposes to place the requirements into 16 CCR sections 1399.483 and 1399.489. The new text contains the following additions and changes. 1399.483E, the inclusion of a self-assessment of the ethics and law materials as requested by the committee. Placing the text in this section creates the requirement that all ethics courses, whether online or in person, need to complete a self-assessment test, which tests the understanding of the subject matter. The existing text in subdivision D only requires tests for courses be taken for independent or home study. Also, renumbering of the section 1399.483 subsection E to F to accommodate the addition of the new subsection E as described above. CCR 1399.483F, inclusion of the text products as a course requirement that clarify the licensees are not obligated to purchase any product and is not a requirement of a continuation course. So this is just a clarification of the way that the providers that offer any products must handle that. And then for 1399.489A clarifies that all licensees in active status shall complete 50 hours of CE units every 2 years as a condition of renewal. This change requested by the committee clarifies that the ethics requirement will be applicable to active licensees only and not to a licensee who is inactive or on retired status. And retired status is coming. We're working on that one right now. Additionally, 1399.489C, this new subsection creates a requirement for 4 hours of continuing education units in law and ethics to be taken every for every 2-year renewal period. This subsection also waives the requirement for licensees who are within their initial renewal period, 13 to 23 months, or on inactive or retired status. The committee discussed better defining the requirement of an ethics course to be distance or in person, but staff feels the existing definitions as set out in 1399-483 subsection D's is sufficient. Additionally, staff does not recommend requiring the course as either category 1 or 2, since that has already occurred during the course approval process. Finally, the committee requested adding the words laws related to the acupuncture profession in the definition of ethics. Staff believes that this is not necessary as CE staff conducts an analysis and exercises discretion over the course approvals to ensure course content relates to the profession of acupuncture when reviewing course applications. If a CE course application for laws and ethics course is submitted to the board that covers laws unrelated to healthcare or acupuncture, then the board has the authority to deny these courses. Per the request of the board, a clarification and definition of inactive status within section 1399.489 subsection C was included by adding pursuant to section 1399.489.1 to reference the definition of inactive status. Renumbering sections 1399.489 subsection C to H to accommodate the additional subsection C as described above. And then also the final changes were general and non-substantive cleanup of existing language. And so with that, it moves to does the board have any questions, or there's some sample language to use to motion to approve or motion to approve as amended? And I hand it back to the president.
Thank you, Jay, Mr. Hurd, for your presentation. I just want to see with the time right now, it's 12:40. Board members, are you wanted to continue, or you would like to have a lunch break? And Ben, what do you, Mr. Boudia, what would you like to see this? And thank you, Mr. Hurd, for your presentation and bring back to the board. And thanks to the staff for been working on it. But I'm just want to be mindful. You guys need a little break, a lunch break. So what would you like, board members? Want to continue? What? Yes, Mr. Boudia.
We can check in with the board to see if there's any challenges to the recommendation from staff, and then see if public comment. It would be helpful to see just kind of how much comments this will provide, seeing as how the only direction provided last time was just to have staff confirm ethics standard, and here we are saying this is established in such a fashion. So I would recommend just seeing how many comments we have from our board members, and then we definitely want to do the lunch. I have union employees, and we need to afford them their lunch as well.
Okay, I appreciate it. So let's do this. We opened up to the board members to see any comments, and then we will open up for the public comments also, and before we take the actions, and then we will bring back to the public comments. How would that be okay? Legal?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that. Board members, any questions and any comments with Mr. Hurd presentation?
Yeah, this is Francisco Kim. I recommend to leave it up to staff's recommendation, because they are looking into the same standard as other board and other professions are stand by. So I think that'll be good enough.
Thank you, Member Kim. Dr. Chen, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Peggy. So I see thank you for the very detailed background presentation from Mr. Hurd, and the proposed language is very clear. So for what I understand, the ethics and laws and regulations to educate the acupuncture professionals will help will help them practice better to protect the public and also help them to avoid all the violations. It's very necessary, and the board has been working on this for many years, and I think it's just like the right timing. The baby is going to be born, so I fully support or agree the staff recommendation language. Thank you. And it's a win-win for good for the profession. I mean, good for public, for profession, for board to oversee this profession. So it's a win-win. I think everybody. I don't speak for everybody, but I see the benefit for all the aspects of the groups. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chen. Any other board members have any questions? No? Okay, so
I see John Harbidian's hand up, Amy.
right, he just told me he will change that. Right now he can't. Sorry. So he doesn't have a question right now. I saw that. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Hurd. So let's open up to the public, and before the board members take the action, if that's okay with everyone. And then after board vote, if it's public still have a question, we can always open it up for the public comment. So moderator, would you like to help for the public comments on this item 20, please?
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click that Q&A icon at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen. And just as a reminder, we will not be taking secondary comments, so please keep your comments to the time period that you are given. And it looks like we do have a couple individuals who have requested comment. We'll go in the order that they are received. Our first individual is identified as Donna. Donna, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. I am unmuting your microphone now.
Thank you. My name is Donna Chow, licensed acupuncturist and also seed provider for eLotus. I do agree in the implementation of the ethics requirement. As board member Chen said, it is very good for practitioners as well as the safety of the patients. I was just curious of where the 4-hour requirement came from. I don't disagree with it. I was just curious because Florida and Texas, they have a 2-hour ethics requirement every 2 years, and NCCAOM, they have 2 hours every 4 years. So Jay was talking about other what is it called? Other professions, but this one is particularly for acupuncturists in the U.S. That's all. Thank you.
All right, this is the moderator. We'll move on to our next individual who has requested public comment. Individual identified as Adam. Adam, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. I am unmuting your microphone now.
Thank you. I agree with the direction of the board in this. I think it's very important. We've provided a lot of safety and ethics courses over the years, and we do get feedback that people didn't know some very basic things, and that the continuing education does help clarify that for acupuncturists. So I'm grateful that in moving in this direction. My question is there a way to review the final language before it's approved and make public comment? Where will we see that language as it's developed? Or is it already written and it's done? I'd like to be able to look at the language of this new requirement. Thank you.
All right, this is the moderator. It looks like that was our last individual who has, oh, I apologize. We do have one moment while I hit cancel. We have another individual who's requested public comment. Individual identified as Neil. Neil, you'll be given 5 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. I am unmuting your microphone now.
Thank you. Neil Miller for Cal ATMA. Cal ATMA has been working on our Acupuncture Code of Medical Ethics since we were a steering committee, and Mr. Francisco Kim and Youngping Chen were part of CalAtma. So we've been working on this for quite a while. And I was actually leading the research, and we looked at every single thing that the Jay identified: AMA, the psycho people, the Kairos, the APTA, but we also look at several states of Florida and others, New Mexico, and also look at NCCLM law and ethics. I also want to point out over past almost 3 decades, I have been teaching at many schools, either by myself to teach medical law and ethics and regulations as well, and we teach. We are designing this class for continuing education for California as we finish our document, and it's a 2-hour course. So the course, although the course when taught at schools, I don't know if Marilyn Allen is on the call, but she teaches like a 14, 15, 16 schools, and she teaches this class within the school programs. So we're looking at not only as students, but we're now looking at having this class for continuing education. So obviously the class at schools is much longer because they don't have the experience, and they need that foundation. But we agree that you need to have this class going forward. The laws, the rules, the regulations change all the time. People need to be up to date. Ethics change. Cultural sensitivity, gender sensitivity, all kind of ethics play a different role today, and they're constantly changing. So it does need to be done within every renewal cycle. But we cannot. I cannot imagine for the life of me why we are being discriminated compared to everybody else. It's just doesn't seem fair. So I really, and I love Jay. I really respect. He brings so much to the table. So I really want to hear his explanation. Try to sell me on your idea, Jay, because this doesn't seem practical or fair or reasonable. But 2 hours, we are 1,000% ahead. We are maybe 6 months, 4 months away from ready to apply for continuing education for this course, because we've been preparing for this. Like I said, when Miss Dr. Kim and Youngping were on CalAtma, so we're now working on this with almost 4 years, 3 years. So we also did a very thorough investigation. I personally read the ethics of all of these groups. So that's my time, and I'd love to hear from you, Jay. Great job, except for I disagree with the 4-hour.
All right, this is a moderator. We'll move on to our next individual who has requested public comment. Individual identified as Mary. You'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. I am unmuting your microphone now.
Thank you for this opportunity to speak, moderator. My name is Mary Schultz, American Acupuncture and Integrative Medicine Institute, continuing education provider 1436. Thank you, Neil, for that excellent advancement of the position for the 2-hour window for the ethics. I second that and agree with all those who have advocated for the 2 hours so that it is in keeping with all of the other standards of states and the NCCOM. I too would like to be part of the committee that reviews the language for this ad and to be part of any committee that would be part of doing a CEU course for this as well. Thank you very much.
All right, we will move on to our next individual who has requested public comment. Individual identified as Philip. Philip, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. I am unmuting your microphone now.
Yeah, thank you. Philip from California University, Silicon Valley, and AACMA. We do very support the ethics in every regular license renewal cycle. It is really necessary because the school provided the ethics classes, but when they graduate, they may forget. And same as the practitioner, they took the classes, yeah, they realized the importance of the ethics, but after a couple of years of the practice, they may forget some of the rules. They consider the interest, the money first, so they may forget or ignore some of the rules, just want to take some borderline or something. And the gray area. So it is really necessary. When we teach the ethics classes, we caught a lot of the negative cases, so that we can learn the lesson from their failure in their practice, and also to take the gray area, what's the risks and the challenges for that, so that they won't take that area. So ethics is also necessary in every renewal cycle. Thank you.
All right, this is the moderator, and it looks like that was our last individual who has requested public comment. Would you like me to close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please, moderator.
All right, Q&A panel is now closed.
Yeah, thank you. The board appreciate the public comment. I know right now it's 12:56. Board members and staff, if you all are okay, I'm going to just have the lunch break and then come back. Board members will take action after you hear the public comments. Then we can continue work on this item 20. So Mr. Bodia, would you be okay? You understand there is a union requirement for the lunch break. So let's see, it's 12:56. We will stop here now and we reconnect at 1:30 for the lunch
Excellent.
break.
Thank you so much, Madam President.
Thank you, everyone. See you at 1:30. Thank you, moderator and IT. Thank you, moderator. Good afternoon, everyone. Ben, are you here? Mr. Bodia?
Yes, Madam President, present.
Okay. So maybe we will do a roll call, see all the rest of the board members are back.
I'm
David?
ready to start with that, Madam President.
Okay, please. Go ahead, please. Thank you.
When I call your name, please unmute and let us know if you're here. Dr. Mateki.
Present.
Kitman Chen.
Here.
Yongping Chen.
Here.
John Harabedian.
Here.
Francisco Kim. Francisco Kim. All right, I'm going to circle back. Shudong Li.
Here.
Ruben Osorio.
Here.
Thank you. Francisco Kim, are you with us? So at the moment, I show at least 6 members here. So we do have a quorum, Madam President.
Thank you, David. Maybe we give a few minutes because we would like to take action on the items. If a board member is okay, staff are okay, maybe we just give a couple minutes. Let's see, maybe it's the IT can help make sure it's okay with access. Thank
We
you,
can
David.
certainly wait a few minutes.
Okay, thank you.
The time is now 1:32.
Yes, thank you.